Bella Salon and Day Spa, located at 41 West Main Street in Northeast Pennsylvania, proudly supports Chautauqua Sunrise and its volunteers. More information at bellasalonanddayspa.net. Westfield Memorial Hospital provides high-quality health care to residents of Western New York, offering patients the most sophisticated medical advancements while keeping the ease and familiarity of a community hospital. Support for Chautauqua Sunrise has been provided by WRFA 107.9 FM, Jamestown's public radio station, streaming online 24/7 at WRFALP.com. Low power to the people. Chautauqua Sunrise is made possible by a grant from Fredonia Place, a continuing care retirement community providing dignity in a modern luxury environment. Meter's Restaurant, a family tradition for over 50 years in downtown Ripley, is a proud supporter of Chautauqua Sunrise. Meter's provides all-day dining, banquet services, and custom catering, specializing in pie. From the Access Chautauqua Studios in Mayville, it's Chautauqua Sunrise. Chautauqua Sunrise is hosted by Doc Hamels and supported by the award-winning volunteers at Access Chautauqua. We are here to share local news, colorful interviews, and events of interest to everyone. Chautauqua Sunrise is broadcast live Saturday mornings each week from 9 to 10 a.m. Send events via email or call us live. Check us out on YouTube and Facebook. And now, from the Access Chautauqua Studios, it's Chautauqua Sunrise.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Doc Hamels, and welcome to Chautauqua Sunrise. Well, today, as always, we are pushing the limits of our technology here at Access Chautauqua. And what we're doing, this is our maiden voyage, and we're going to be experimenting on our poor guest that's waiting in the wings here. We are streaming live over Facebook, and for those of you that are interested, we're going to try to do this every week from here on out. The sound quality may not be perfect yet. The visual may not be perfect yet, but we all put our heads together the last couple of weeks, and we think we've got it perfected down to about 85%. We want to be able to share Chautauqua County with the world. So, good morning, world. I know that if we're on Facebook, it could be anywhere in the world right now. So, good morning to everybody. And also, good afternoon to all of our listeners on WRFA 107.9, Low Power to the People in Jamestown, Tuesdays at 1 o'clock. So glad you could join us. And as always, I think what we have in store for you today is important. And you're going to get some information that you can share with friends, relatives, and even partake of yourself, because it's good stuff to know. Lots of things to talk about today. I want to remind you that if you have a question or a comment, you can give us a call at 753-5225, 753-5225. I got to slow down here a little bit. If you have a comment, a question, announcement, something for your club or organization, we're happy to share it. Today I got good news. For those of you that are patient through the community announcements, we don't have a whole lot to talk about this morning, so we certainly would welcome to hear from your organizations. If you have a turkey shoot, a spaghetti dinner, a fundraiser for somebody that maybe is in special need of some financial help, whatever. It could be just a show, a club, a project, whatever. Don't be shy, it's free. And now that we're streaming anywhere in the world, I don't know if we want to hear California news, but we will be happy to share anywhere within the Chautauqua region, northern Pennsylvania, and southern Chautauqua, or Erie County, New York. Okay, let's see, what do I got here? This morning, I know it was kind of brisk, about 33 degrees at my house, but the sun was coming up, and what trees still have their leaves, it was really quite spectacular in my woods this morning. And I'm sure anywhere along the highway, that sun hits those yellows and oranges just behind them. It just makes the whole thing just kind of glow. It's really spectacular. So get out there and enjoy Chautauqua County this fall, even though it feels a little bit wintry today. I know we're supposed to get some precipitation in the next 24 hours, but I think that's going to be short-lived, hopefully, and we'll still enjoy some fall weather coming up. Let's see what else we got here. I want to remind you that it's Election Day, November 5. Now you might say it's just this or just that. Hey, everything's important. Every election, whether it's a local councilman or a county legislator, we got a state senate race this year. There's lots of positions that affect our lives more than you realize, rather than some of these national or statewide elections. Your local elections are just as important because they're paying the bills, they're helping you get services or whatever, and I really encourage you to get out there and vote. With Veterans Day coming up, and that's going to be our topic today, for goodness sakes, if we go back to the beginning of our country, that's what they're fighting over, the ability to have their right to speak and vote and have your voice heard. So get out there. Okay, Steve Gustafson was here last week, and he was sharing with us that has his final production he's producing, West Side Story. So that's going to be at JCC in the next couple of weeks. And I encourage you to get out there and have some fun and watch that show, because it looks really pretty spectacular. And I've already talked to Barb, and we're hopefully going to get out there and watch it as well. Live theater is always a lot of fun. This is sort of a shout out to the Ripley Public Library. Although it was not particularly well attended because of the weather, I'm guessing, they had their first family fun run. And Barb and I, we agreed to do this. And what you do is you get in your car, pay a little bit of money, and they give you like a scavenger hunt, and you go all across the part of the county, and you have to go find, go out to Lindsman Park and take a picture of yourself. And then go over to Bemis Point, and I had to take a picture of the gazebo with myself in it. Well, the idea is you take all these pictures, and when you get all done, you come we went to Noble Winery, you roll the dice. It's like a dice run, like the motorcyclists doing antique cars. And whoever gets the highest roll, and you have all these questions you have to answer on the way. It's just a lot of fun. It's a fun way to see Chautauqua County and that. But anyways, good on you, Ripley Public Library. That was a lot of fun. Thank you. Okay, coming up, since it is Veterans Day kind of theme this week for us here at the show, I want to let people know that on November 12th, at the Westfield Mayville I'll get this right. The Westfield Mayville Rotary. I got too many words in my mouth here. Westfield Mayville Rotary Club. We meet over at the Parkview Cafe. My father-in-law is a World War II vet, Bill Molson, and he's going to be the featured guest. And he's going to talk about some of his experiences during World War II in the South Pacific. And also we're going to run the video that he was part of, where the Defenders of Freedom with Greg Peterson, where my father-in-law was interviewed about his experiences in that. So if you're interested, please come on down over at the Parkview at the Westfield Mayville Rotary Club, and we meet at 5 o'clock. All right. Also, keep in mind, Veterans Day is coming up, and I think we're going to have one more show before that, but I just like to remind people of that and so forth. So we have a few quick announcements, and then we're going to take a break, and then we'll bring our guest right on. All right. Jessica Dayton was on the show last week from the Children's Safety Education Village, and she wants me to remind you that they have their smoke alarm install program. And if you're interested, they are providing a 10-year, in other words, it lasts that long, 10-year smoke alarms, smoke alarm installation, and home inspection, all free. If you're interested in getting a 10-year smoke alarm, give them a call at 338-0170, or go to their webpage, Children's Safety Village, all one word, childrensafetyvillage.com. And again, that number is 338-0170. Get your free smoke alarm and home inspection. Okay, coming up on November 2nd, which is today, right now, is the Writing for Laurel, okay? And that's part of the Resource Center's programs they have there. It's a big fundraiser, and it's $25. And all I can tell you is if you're interested, it started about a little bit ago, but it's going to be at 1170 Central Avenue in Dunkirk, Chautauqua Health and Fitness. And I guess that's all I can tell you right now. There's no sense filling out any forms, but if you're there, good on you. And if not, you can get over there and participate. Okay, Chautauqua County Chamber of Commerce, they have a variety of different things that go on every month. And I try to pick out some of them that are of interest. And let's see here, what do we got? We got Business After Hours at the Southern Tier Brewing on November 12th. This is a limited space event. It's being sponsored by the Chamber, and then it's going to be held at the Southern Tier Brewing Company. It says, once again, this year the Chamber invites you to enjoy Novemberfest from 5 to 6:30 p.m. Tuesday, November 12th. This is a fun evening of networking with your fellow Chamber members and prospective members. The evening will feature appetizers, a business card, door prize drawing, a cash bar featuring Southern Tier's terrific brewery selections on tap. Okay, so that's coming up. If you're interested, give them a call at 366-6200 or 484-1101. Now, this next one's kind of interesting. I think we've talked about this every year that it's been in existence. 6th year, and this show's been on 6 years, so I guess we started out together. Technology and Manufacturing Expo, November 13th. Here we go. The 6th Annual Technology and Manufacturing Expo will be held Wednesday, November 13th at the Manufacturing Technology Institute at Jamestown Community College. Now, if you haven't been there before, it's absolutely a stunning building. It's right across the street from a JCC. I believe it's an old bowling alley that they renovated, as I recall. I used to be on the board of directors there, and I'm pretty sure that's true. This event is a great opportunity to showcase your manufacturing company, be exposed to technologies, network with other manufacturers in the region, build your supply chain, and identify potential new customers. All right, and for more information, same number, 366-6200 or 484-1101. Okay, and let's see. Then join us for Small Business Saturday, okay? My daughter has a business over in Pennsylvania, and she's one of these. And once again, like we were just saying, keeping things local, it's the local companies that make and drive this country. It's not necessarily all those big box places. They certainly have their part in it, but a lot of your businesses are just everyday people running their businesses to supply services and goods to all of us. So let's keep that in mind. So let's have a listen to what this is all about. Chamber members, businesses should sign up now to be listed in the Chamber's annual Small Business Saturday promotions. This annual event is promoted nationally by American Express and is celebrating its 10th year. Once again this year, the Chautauqua County Chamber of Commerce has signed on as a neighborhood champion for Small Business Saturday, which is November 30th. That's the day after Black Friday, I think. The Saturday after Thanksgiving. It's a great opportunity to support small, locally owned businesses, especially as the holiday shopping season begins. We will help to promote local businesses and help to run some talent events for Small Business Saturday. I still remember just the other day my wife said these words that were just burned into my memory. She looked at me and says, "You know what?" I go, "What?" And I thought she's being very romantic. She says, 2 months from today is Christmas. I just stared. Okay. It's like, here we go again. So the holiday season is upon us. The commercials are definitely into the holiday season. And so strap on your seatbelt. Here we go. So anyways, Small Business Saturday is coming up November 30th. Randy, you could play Santa.
I need an extender.
You need an extender belt. Okay. And then there's another event coming up. The Chamber's having their annual meeting to feature Comedy Center Update. So everybody's invited to attend the Chautauqua County Chamber of Commerce 2019 annual meeting Friday, December 6th. And without going to all that, because it's a bit down the road, but they're going to be featuring speakers from the Comedy Center. And that's in December. And if you are interested, again, the number is 366-6200 or 484-1101. Now, that's all I have as far as announcements go right now. So we're going to take a little break, and we're going to be right back with my guests. So stay tuned. And for those of you that are streaming, we're going to have a little break in between here, so we'll be right back.
Are your children in the right car seat for their age and size? Is the seat supposed to be forward-facing or rear-facing? Did they move to a booster seat too soon? It may be too late to check when you're on the road. Fortunately, you're on the couch. Car crashes are a leading killer of children 1 to 13. Don't think you know. Know you know.
Okay, we mentioned earlier that November 11th is Veterans Day, which is right around the corner. And I think for the last several years, since we started the show here, I've tried to have speakers from the Chautauqua County Veteran Services here. And whether it's a soft spot in my heart or it's just the fact that I've had so many family members that have been in the service, I am just high on veterans, and I'm not a veteran myself, but I certainly support all the efforts that veterans have done over the hundreds of years of our country, and what they've done for all of us that didn't serve. So I want to welcome back to the show Greg Carlson, who's the Executive Director. Is that your title, Executive Director?
Just the Director.
Oh, all right.
I like Executive Director, though.
We'll make it Executive Director of the Chautauqua County Veteran Services. And Greg, you're no stranger here, so welcome back. And it seems hard to believe you were just here for Memorial Day, and here we are now for Veterans Day.
I know, I was counting. I think this is my eighth appearance on the show.
Well, your predecessor,
Gary,
he was on for a couple years before you, so yeah. But eighth time.
Because this would be the fourth Veterans Day. Because I did it right when I started. 3 Memorial Days, and then I was on with Cindy Reedy once when she was talking about the Dwyer program.
So, well, then I'm right. I do have a special place in my heart for veterans, and I think we've mentioned it in my family. At least when I went back and discovered that my grandfather served in World War I, which I didn't know. I found pictures of him with those. I call them like they look like Smokey the Bear hats.
Yes,
those white
they
brims.
were different. Correct.
And he had the I don't know what they're called, but they button up the side of your leg from your
pants that flare out a little bit.
Yeah, and then there's this thing that comes up your leg from your shoe, leg protector. I don't know what it was, but anyways, he's standing there smoking a cigarette with 2 of his friends. But I found those in the archives as I was going through some paperwork, and I couldn't believe it. So my grandfather was in World War I. Dad was in World War II, as well as my father-in-law, as I mentioned earlier. My brother-in-law, Artie Wright, served in Vietnam, and my cousin Gary, and then my son Scott has been in all kinds of theaters and finally retired. So we've got 4 generations in our family that have served in. I don't know, maybe I have a relative that served in the Revolutionary War or Civil War. I'm not sure. I'd have to go back a little bit farther. How about your family? You've got a line of veterans, or are you the first?
Oh, no, I am not even close to the first. So my grandfathers served in the United States Marine Corps during World War II.
Okay.
And he took part in the occupation of Okinawa.
All right.
My father served in the United States Air Force, and then my stepfather served in the Army, and he was in Vietnam.
Wow.
My uncle served in the Navy during Desert Storm. My brother and sister were both active duty.
Oh, you didn't
Navy.
tell me that.
Absolutely. There's a picture of the 3 of us together from, I think, 2000, where we're all on active duty at the same time.
That must make your parents a little crazy.
And oh yes, proud. If you ever go into their spare room, it's kind of like a shrine to our military time there. And my sister's husband's still serving in the Navy, and they live in Virginia. And I've got cousins, and I'm sure I'm missing some. I haven't mentioned someone. My great uncle Pete, Randy's dad, served in World War II, highly decorated World War II.
Yes, so he was injured, as I recall.
Very severely.
Yeah.
Yeah, wasn't supposed to live all that long or have kids, and he proved them all wrong. So.
Well, there's a lot of the guys that proved him wrong, and so that's good. So lots of rich history of veterans and in both of our families, and I'm sure many of you that are watching right now have the same situation in your family lines, or you're veterans yourself. So one of the things that I always point out early in the show is if you're a veteran, know a veteran, married to a veteran, you're going to be a veteran. When Greg comes on to the show, this is one of the shows that you want to make sure that you tape or go to YouTube over and over and over again. And I'll tell you why. Because I've done this with family members and friends. I've actually gone back and watched our show and said, what was that phone number again? Or what did Greg say about this? Because there's people out there that haven't been able to catch this show or heard the information we have to share. And this is a resource, this show is a resource for all of you forever and ever. So I'd like to remind you that YouTube is like our reference library for veterans. How's that for a good plug?
Absolutely.
So Veterans Day is coming up. So you've always made the distinction, there's a difference between Memorial Day and Veterans Day. So go for it. What's the distinction?
Well, really the biggest well, let's backtrack just a little bit there. So Memorial Day, Veterans Day, I appreciate every compliment or every kind word I get from somebody for my service. So I'm not one of those like the Gestapo that comes in and says, you can't say this on Memorial Day, you can't say this on Veterans Day. But Veterans Day is really a day to honor all veterans, okay? Memorial Day is a day to honor veterans who are no longer with us.
Okay.
Really the biggest difference.
If someone comes up to you on Memorial Day and says, thanks for your service, it's okay.
Yes, please, please.
With my father-in-law, wherever we go, or even my dad, when he was still alive, they always wore their hats very proudly wherever their ship or World War II vet or whatever. And I know Vietnam veterans do the same thing. And we always thank them, no matter what day of the week it is or what's the event. You don't have to wait for 2 days of the year to do that, right?
Correct.
Okay. So are there festivities coming up here that you're going to be involved with for Veterans Day?
Absolutely, and they would be too numerous to mention. But if you look in the paper, look at the Penny Saver, watch what's going on, read the Post Journal, you'll be able to find a Veterans Day celebration that you can go to. I'm going to be the speaker for two. One is going to be at Fredonia State, the Veterans Remembrance Ceremony, and that's going to be in the Williams Center, and that's Friday at 3:30, and that's at Fredonia. And then on Sunday in Brockton, the American Legion has their county service for Veterans Day, and I'll be at those two definitively. And then I'll also make my rounds to the various nursing homes and assisted living facilities, and we recognize veterans in that way as well.
That's awesome.
But that's just the tip of the iceberg.
Tip of the iceberg.
There's so many more events. I know Mike the Bear, Big Mike,
Big Mike
who's our
the Bear,
service officer from
the
Jamestown,
Bear.
and Dave Adams, the Dunkirk service officer. Both have their own itinerary that they work off of for Veterans Day as well, and it's kind of, we try to do a little bit different every year, so we're not doing the same ceremonies, but the festivities for Veterans Day will be numerous.
Absolutely, and every year, to brag up my town in Ripley, at the 11th day, the 11th hour of the 11th month, they have their service right in the heart of Ripley at our Veterans Memorial. Bob McIntosh is very involved with that and the veterans group there. So, and it's amazing how many people actually come out for that, even if it's the worst weather in the world. I think it was last year, I was watching water running down their backs while they were full attention. And I'm going like, that's got to be cold water. And I talked to a couple of them later, and they said, it was cold, but we stood there. That's how we do it. And so, okay.
So it's funny you say the 11th day, the 11th month, the 11th hour. I remember, it might have been 2 years ago, I gave a Veterans Day speech at JCC, and I had this whole thing prepared, and I started with that. But someone went before me. And literally, I want to say the first, 2 minutes of the speech was almost verbatim. So that is a very popular way to start a Veterans Day speech.
I don't know where I was in high school or whatever, but I never picked up on that 11-11-11 until my son one day said, yeah, Dad, Veterans Day is 11-11-11. I go, what do you mean? And he told me, I go, really? So I hadn't really thought about that. But I guess that's when they they agrees, whoever they is, the forces, the powers that be, when they want to have a treaty, they say, okay, we're going to do this on this day, this month, at this time, and they make that the official. So that was kind of cool. 11/11. Okay, so one of the things that I look forward to when you're here is to teach me something new. And the reason why I like it is because then I can go out and tell people the same thing. I'm sort of like a little veteran's disciple. I like to share the word because there's so much misinformation out there. Oh, I'm not eligible for this, or it can't be for me, or whatever. Go, no, that's not true. I'm telling you right now, my friend Greg told me this is true. You need to go down there and check it out. And sure enough, you were right, and I was right to bug them, and they get their services. So what's new?
So there is a lot of new stuff, actually.
Okay.
And this is pretty significant, and I can give you a little background on
Go for it.
service-connected disabilities. So when people hear the term disabled veteran, a lot of times people think that that is someone who cannot work, who is, they think similar to Social Security disability. Not that way at all. I'm a disabled veteran, and I work full-time. You know, so
You're disabled?
well, I have a service-connected disability.
I did not know that.
So it's varying degrees,
Okay.
right? So, for example, if they determine that the severity of your injury illness is 20%, there's no way you could live off of a 20%.
Right.
But it can enhance your life dramatically, give you extra spending money, makes you eligible for other benefits. So, anyways,
So the disability could be something like a hearing loss, right?
correct.
So
Yes.
it doesn't have to be something that's like a missing limb or a limp or you're in a wheelchair.
Now, there are circumstances where someone is permanently and totally disabled, and they do receive a full
Okay.
living wage for their service-connected disabilities. But there are so many disabled veterans that are working for the U.S. Postal Service. They're working for the police departments. They're teachers. They're people who have served, who had an injury or illness related to their service,
Okay.
and are walking around. And a lot of times people think, oh, if I'm a disabled veteran, I can't work. I can't, what that means. So there are varying levels of disability. So that's the first thing. The second piece is, how do you get a service-connected disability?
I don't know.
So there's a couple of different ways, okay? One is what we call direct service connection. So while you're serving on active duty, you have an injury or illness that is not the result of your own willful misconduct. So if you weren't doing something...
This sounds like a lawyer talking.
Yeah. So if you weren't doing something that you're not supposed to do, and you have an injury or illness related to your service...
So like the knucklehead that drops out of a tree for fun gets hurt, that doesn't count.
I would say somebody who goes AWOL, is drinking and driving, and gets in a car
This
accident,
wouldn't count.
breaks their leg, probably going to have a hard time with the
All right,
service
so this
disability.
is somebody that actually gets injured in the line of duty.
Injured or an illness that is diagnosed
What
and
kind,
kills.
what kind of illness?
Well, it's hypertension.
Oh,
So you're on active duty, and you get diagnosed with hypertension, you can file a claim for a service-connected disability.
yeah, but
because
what if
it
it's
was-
hereditary? What if your parents have hypertension? You can't
When you
prove
go
it.
on active duty and they give you an entry examination, you are considered a complete and whole person.
Yeah?
If that changes over the course of your service time, it is considered a service-connected disability. I don't write the laws, I'm just telling you how. And that's why there's so many veterans who come to me and like, I don't, they think they had to have been injured in combat, and that's not
We're not
the
talking
case at
Purple
all.
Heart stuff. We're just talking everyday
Yes.
loss of quality of life.
Correct.
All right. So I always ask you true or false on this.
Right.
So tell me this is true or false. There are people watching right now that have a disability that have not claimed it because they didn't think they could.
Correct.
All right.
I see it all the time.
Okay.
All the time. Okay, another way you can be given a service-connected disability, and this is where I'm going to talk about what's new. Okay, there's something called presumptive conditions. So a presumptive condition would be you were exposed to something while you were serving on active duty.
Agent Orange.
Correct. There are a list of diseases that are associated with Agent Orange exposure.
Mesothelioma.
Well, that's more asbestosis. But anyways.
All right. But I'm saying there's
we'll talk
some
about
type of
type
exposure.
2 diabetes.
Okay. Oh.
Is linked to Agent Orange exposure. Okay. There's a much higher prevalence in that. Now, could it be hereditary? Absolutely. But there is a much higher prevalence of type 2 diabetes in people who've been exposed to Agent Orange than not. There's a statistically significant. So, presumptive, if you were boots on the ground in country Vietnam, 40 years later, 45 years later, 50 years later, you're diagnosed with type 2 diabetes because you were exposed to Agent Orange and because Agent Orange has a statistically significant increase in that particular condition, you shall be granted service connection. Okay, now, here's what's changed.
Okay.
It was that you had to be boots on the ground in Vietnam. They have now opened up the presumptives to what we call Blue Water Navy.
What?
So it used to be the Navy who served in Vietnam, but they served in the never actually put boots on the ground.
Right.
But they served along
patrolling the
shoreline.
shorelines things.
Correct. So if you ever see how they sprayed Agent Orange, there's these airplanes and literally this dust. So the Department of Veterans Affairs used to think there was a magic bubble
Protected the Navy.
that protected the Navy.
This curtain just stopped right there.
Correct. And they have now realized that the bubble does not exist. And if you are on a ship that served in the Vietnam area of operation, and you were there are some specifications you had to have been within a certain distance, whatever.
Yeah, common sense.
But that's most of them who did ended up, going into various bays and stuff where they sprayed Agent Orange. Those Navy veterans are now eligible for the presumptive conditions, just like the boots on the ground.
So
guys.
when did this go into effect?
This is within the last year. Now they're not going to. So we've already started doing some claims for the Blue Water Navy, but they have not been adjudicated yet because it's not going to take effect till January 1st.
Wow.
But we got the claims in anyways.
All right.
So
So
that is a big change.
let me recap this.
Okay.
So anybody that's listening right now, World War II, or no, World
Vietnam.
War II, Vietnam vet, excuse me. I get my words mixed up. Vietnam War vet, and they were in the Navy.
And they were in the Navy.
On some type of water vessel.
Correct.
Doesn't matter.
Correct.
'Cause they had
Within 12 nautical miles of the shoreline, and almost all of them went into the various bays that they had,
Right, in
where
and
they
out.
would spray it right over their head. And
They're probably watching them.
Yes. So those veterans are now eligible for all of the Agent Orange presumptives.
Including diabetes.
Type 2 diabetes, prostate cancer, lung cancer, coronary artery disease. There's a list.
Holy moly.
So those are the most common ones that you see frequently. So yeah, there are a list of things that are associated with Agent Orange. And as someone who does claims all the time, it's shocking the number of Vietnam veterans I see that had developed these conditions, but not with normal age, prematurely. And then the elixir of the ones, it's almost like they went off and printed the list of Agent Orange presumptives and walked in and handed it to you.
Wow. When you said cancer, what kind of cancers are we talking here?
So there's various, and I don't have the list in front of me.
No,
prostate cancer is the most common, I would say, that I see.
That's weird.
Yeah, prostate cancer.
Prostate cancer. I would not have
Lung
thought that.
cancer is another one.
Well, lung I would get. That would make sense. How about this? I've heard some vets over the years that said that they had rashes or they break out and things from time to time, and they thought it was linked. Is there any discussion on that?
There is, and the thing is, now for the rashes, and I'm not going to use the medical term. I should have brought the list with me.
It's okay.
In depth. Some of them, that's the one exception where it had to have manifested itself within a certain time of service. But like the prostate cancer, type 2 diabetes, ischemic heart disease, these ones, anytime. You could be diagnosed at 75, and because you were exposed to Agent Orange, you meet the presumptive. But yes, the one big change is the Blue Water Navy. What they call Blue Water Navy. So they were in Vietnam. They were along the shoreline. The Agent Orange was sprayed just over them, just like it was the guy's boots on the ground.
All right. So this now. All right. So let me go. You were Air Force.
Yes.
All right. So what about blue sky guys? I mean, were they exposed?
Well, most of those guys took off.
They were on the ships.
They were on the potentially. This could be very complicated. Okay, so there are certain subsects of people who didn't even have to be in Vietnam, but if they worked on the aircraft, okay, the tail numbers, that actually were used to spray Agent Orange. They can meet the requirement as well. But what I want to be very careful about is getting into these niche things.
Right.
Because then you get people like, wait a second, I might have done that, and then
get
these
your
things
hopes
have to
up
be
and-
proven.
yeah.
These things have
Well,
to be
what I
proven.
was getting at is the Air Force, they landed on the aircraft carriers, right?
Yeah, they would be Navy, but yes.
But what I mean is, if they were within 12 nautical miles of the shoreline,
Absolutely.
and they were in there getting in and out of their airplane, they would be there, right?
Correct.
So the Air Force could be involved.
Yeah, well, if they were taking off from a carrier, they are Navy. The Air Force guys were.
Oh, is it
The Air Force guys-
The Navy has their own Air Force.
The Navy doesn't have their own Air Force. The Navy has their own pilots, and
Oh,
they have their own air wings. Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
all right. So whoever's on that ship,
So aircraft
and they
carriers,
fly
the
an
guys who
airplane,
were-
they could be in an airplane.
Yeah, so the aircraft carriers, the guys who were taking off and landing on those carriers,
Yeah.
are 99.9% of the time Navy pilots.
Oh,
There are some exchange programs. I don't want to, because as sure as I say, there's no Air Force guy who's ever taken off from a aircraft carrier. I'll find that exchange officer who did a 3-year tour with the Navy that scolds me.
I did not know this. I always thought it was the Air Force that was on
No,
there.
Top Gun, Goose and Maverick,
Yeah,
are
yeah.
both Navy aviators, naval aviators.
gotta
Their
pay
wings
more-
are made of
I
gold.
got to pay more attention to my Air Force people. My dad was Army Air Force, but he was
Yes.
a radio operator.
Yeah.
All right. All right. So that's huge, though.
Yes, that
this
is a
Blue
big
Water
change.
group. All right. And what else?
Another change.
All right,
and this
another
is
one.
something I have personally utilized.
Okay.
Okay. Urgent, if you are enrolled in VA healthcare
VA.
in good standing,
Yeah.
you can now use urgent care. So like your local urgent, as long as it's, but most, I know in Chautauqua County, most of the urgent care offices that are available are approved for VA use. But yes, you actually get 4 visits a year before you have to start paying the co-pays and everything, but for urgent care, which is nice because anybody who's gone to the emergency room and spent hours and hours and hours and hours there, to be able to go into urgent care as someone who's enrolled in VA healthcare is a huge benefit.
All right. So let's play out a scenario.
Okay.
One of my underwriters that you see in the beginning of the show is the Westfield Memorial Hospital. All right?
Okay.
So let's just use him for an example. So a veteran
Who's enrolled in VA healthcare?
which is not insurance, it's a service.
It's correct.
We've been,
The-
I don't know how many times people say, I don't want to go to the VA because I don't want to ruin my insurance. It has nothing to do with that.
VA
All right.
healthcare, they are a provider, not an insurance.
All right.
Boom.
So they're enrolled. They get their annual physical. So you got me well trained.
Mm-hmm.
They've done all the paperwork. They get their annual physical, and they don't necessarily see the VA other than that once a year.
Correct.
All right. So they're in good standing, and something happens, and they got to go to Westfield Memorial Hospital ER. Is that what we're talking?
Okay, no, it's 2 different things. That's
Two
called
different
em-
things.
2 different. So, emergent care, we obviously the VA does not have an emergency room.
Right.
If you're having a heart attack, you're not driving to Buffalo.
Don't go right, or don't go Erie.
So there is a process, and without getting too far depth into it, if you're having a heart attack, you go to the WCA hospital or, Brooks or whatever hospital that you need to go to
Yeah,
get
yeah.
treated. Notify the VA within 72 hours that you had this. Now here's the thing. I can get past that if you don't, because if you're incapacitated, the last thing on your mind is.
Right.
But that would be considered what we call emergent care. Emergent care is authorized, okay? This is urgent care.
Urgent care.
So urgent care is a little bit different.
Okay.
Urgent care is, it's not a life-threatening emergency that you go to the emergency room for, like a heart attack, but it's something where you need to see the doc right now. You can't wait 3 weeks for your appointment.
Break an arm.
That would be emergency room stuff. But like, for example, if you have an upper respiratory infection,
Okay.
and you need to get an antibiotic,
All right.
And you call your doctor's office and they say, we can get you in 3 weeks.
No. I'm
to
sick
urgent
right
care.
now. Urgent care.
Yeah.
All right. So
Because it's not a life-threatening emergency.
where are urgent care facilities in?
So there's one on Fairmount. That's the one that I went to.
Okay.
But there's a couple of them throughout the county. I would have to get a list and get back to you
All
of
right.
the ones they
but
have.
they're in the phone book.
Correct. But urgent care is like emergency room light. Because
Okay.
you go in there, it's not nearly as
Almost like a clinic.
long of a way. It is. But they're designed to get you in right there and get you.
And this is free.
And this is
How much do they got to pay?
nothing. Okay, remember, if you have a service connect, whatever, minimal copay or nothing if you have a service connect disability for the first 4 visits.
And this is brand new.
This is new. This is a new thing that has come with the most recent changes to healthcare. But I've actually used it. I actually went to I had upper respiratory infection and or bronchitis. I went
Okay.
to urgent care and
Life is good now.
Life is good. Yeah.
All right, for those, let's take a little breather here. Folks, you're watching Chautauqua Sunrise, and my guest today is the director of the Chautauqua County Veteran Services, Greg Carlson, and you can give us a call at 753-5225. We're talking about some kind of technical and intricate things here for services, and I'm trying to ask him all the questions that you might be thinking about, and I can ask, but please give us a call if you do have a question, because this is for you guys and gals, all right? And I mentioned gals because we forget that women served in the armed forces in many different capacities. So please give them a call right here. But if they are too shy to call today, how will they get a hold of you?
So the best thing to do if you're a veteran and you're not sure about your benefits is to call and set up an appointment with a service officer, whether that is Dave Adams out of the Dunkirk office or Mike or myself out of the Jamestown office, and we will sit down and we will start from A to Z, and we'll go through all the benefits that you may be eligible for.
Okay, so let's pop up those phone numbers, Jeff. And Greg, go ahead and tell us what those are for our listeners.
All right, for the Jamestown office, 661-8255. That's 716 area code. And then for the Dunkirk office, it's 716-268-6030.
Okay, great. I just been told we actually have some viewers on Facebook right now, so we want to welcome our very first streaming live audience. So good morning, everyone that's watching. That's terrific. You're our experiment today. Hope you all can hear us well. Okay.
I also want to make a plug for something else. And
Go for it.
This is very important. And this is something that I've had happen on several occasions as a service officer. And it's always very moving when it does happen. Mm-hmm. So one of the things that the VA has is absolutely outstanding mental health counselors.
Oh boy.
Okay. I can't tell you the number of. I'm going to pick on the Vietnam guys a little bit.
All right.
Okay. Vietnam era veteran. They're retired. They've got a lot more time on their hands. They're later in life, and they'll sit across from me, and we're going over the benefits, and I'm talking about service-connected disabilities, and I'll say, do you know what post-traumatic stress is, or do you have any residuals from no, because they think post-traumatic stress is where you're hiding under the table, you're like what they show in the movies.
You're seeing things in the in your back,
that sort of thing, and they'll say no, I don't have that, and then I have a little cheat sheet, and I'll just ask them a few questions, and I've had 70-year-old men, tough men, grown men start sobbing uncontrollably.
Oh boy.
In my office, those people need to take advantage of the mental health
They've been carrying
counseling.
That load for a long time.
Carrying it for a long time. Because a lot of times people think that post-traumatic stress, there's a negative to, or that if you get diagnosed with post-traumatic stress, or if you see someone for it, that I'm an avid hunter and they're going to take my rifle or my shotgun.
Take my driver's license away, or
and I
put
can,
me on pills.
And I can tell you unequivocally, okay, that there are numerous veterans who are service-connected for post-traumatic stress, who have pistol permits, who have rifles, who go hunting, one has no effect on the other. Of course, there's always the caveat. If you are a threat to yourself or others, then it could affect
absolutely,
it.
absolutely.
But merely having symptoms of post-traumatic stress that you get treated for, that you talk to a counselor back, that you do for quality of life, okay? They're not going to take your pistol away. You're not going to be on some magic list. You're not going to. As a matter of fact, there's police officers, there's firefighters who are actively serving, who are better because they get treated. Do you see what I'm saying?
Anybody can get PTSD, right?
And you can have a military. You don't have to have even been in combat. You could be the victim of military sexual trauma. You could be the victim of. You could have been a first responder to a horrible car accident. I mean, there are so many different things that could affect that. But the reason I bring it up is because I don't know how many times I've had Vietnam veterans sitting in front of me and the spouse next to him. And I'll ask
I was just going to say, the spouse is usually the whistleblower.
Do you ever have any trouble sleeping? And they'll go like this, and their spouse will go like this.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Is there, there's just some questions that you can ask.
Some quick analysis here. Yeah.
Some quick things. Is there anything that you did before you went to Vietnam that you don't do anymore? Or is there anything that you didn't do before you went that you do now? There's just certain things, and that will be, it's telling. And now I'm not a mental health professional. I don't have the ability to diagnose. I don't have any of that. But like I said, I've had
you can screen them real quick.
Too many people that has happened to. And you ask the question, and their first response is always no. So for veterans out there who they think that some negative thing will happen if they seek help. The only thing that's going to happen is you're going to get help.
And this is the thing I got to remember all the time, because I'm of that age group, mm-hmm. is that a lot of these guys were 18, 19, 20 years old. Mm-hmm. 50 years later, 5 years later, they've been carrying this thing forever, and they haven't been able to get it off their chest, and it comes out in ugly ways. They lash out, they drink, they drug, they do abusive behaviors, and they don't even realize why they're doing it, because they're either reacting in their mind or they're just responding because their nerves are just raw. And I've seen it. I know exactly what you're talking about.
And a lot of times it gets worse in retirement, mm-hmm. because you
more
don't
time
have
on their hands.
You don't have the distractions of you're raising your family, you're going to work every day. So what do you have? You have time.
Do you find that some of these folks that have the PTSD and they're retired, they're sitting around reading books about Vietnam?
I don't think that. I think through the natural process of aging, when you get older, you become more reflective. Mm-hmm. I know. Now, I'm not retirement age yet, but I know that in my 40s, I think about things a lot differently than I did in my 30s and 20s.
And you survived.
Right.
Yeah.
So you have men and women who served in combat, and they're now in their 60s and 70s. They're now retired. Their children are grown.
Yeah.
They reflect.
Yeah.
They think back.
Reason why I ask, because I keep seeing movies mm-hmm. that are coming out that are either non-related or similar, mm-hmm. or the Iraqi situation or Afghanistan. Books are like a plethora of books, and I've found, I've gone to a veteran's home. There's books mm-hmm. out on the side table, the coffee table, that they're reading.
I'm sure sometimes.
You know what I mean? It's sort of like they're either trying to figure things out in their minds, or they're revisiting that, or something like that. And I think I shared this story before, and I don't mean to be redundant on this, but my dad very seldom talked about the negative side of World War II, because he didn't. And do you remember up in Buffalo, I don't remember what year it was, maybe 2008, they had that microstorm where all that snow just came down on Buffalo. I don't know if you were...
I recall and I wasn't here at that time,
right.
But yes, I
recall. But it was just in this very narrow area, all this snow came down, and it was breaking branches because the trees still had their leaves. And my mother said that my dad freaked out. My dad never freaked out about anything. I mean, he was just as even as you could be. And you see him always in my opening credits. That's my dad. That's the veteran there. And she said he was just like jumping around the house and looking out the windows, because when he heard those branches, it reminded him of the strafing, mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
The guns and the airplanes coming overhead, and the bullets and just explosions and things like that. And you know what? After that, that's when I found my dad pulling out his Army books and showing me where he was and talking mm-hmm. about that war more than I ever remember as a kid. So I think that triggered something. So
I think another thing that happens too is when like your son served for a long time in the Army. So
mm-hmm.
that's a big part of his life. I served for over 20 years in the Air Force.
Yep.
That's a big part of my life. I don't necessarily have a nostalgia about it. But imagine someone who was born and raised here in Chautauqua County, and then ended up working, raising a family here in Chautauqua County, and retires in Chautauqua County. But in their 18 to 24 or 25 range, they had a 2 to 4 year stint somewhere
mm-hmm.
in the Navy, in the Army, in the Marine Corps, the Air Force, Coast Guard, whatever it is. That is the one part of their life that was different than all others.
Yeah.
So when people get older, they tend to look back at that period because it was the thing that they did that was so different than other things.
You know, you probably don't know this, but I was just part of a production called Harvest Moon 2019. It was a production at the Lakeshore Center for the Arts. Rick Mascaro wrote it, and the first half was just about local people, but the second half was all about World War II veterans, sure. and it focused on a handful of veterans and their lives and experiences. But the stunning thing was that out of Westfield, which is like a medium-sized village town in our community, how many veterans from World War II do you think came out of that town?
I can't even begin to give you a number, but I'm sure it's going to be an alarmingly high
Over
number.
550 veterans
Wow.
out of just Westfield, New York. And I think Ripley was probably half that, a couple hundred.
Right.
I mean, many of them are no longer with us, but the fact that is all those people had all those experiences that you're talking about. And darn it, too bad they didn't have all the services that you provide today, because maybe their lives would have been a lot different. You know?
Oh, absolutely. And I look at the World War II generation in particular. On active duty today, you have just right around 1 million people.
Yeah.
So Army, Navy, Marine Corps, you have on active duty, you have about 1 million. And look at our population is well over 300 million.
Mm-hmm.
During World War II, the population was less than half of what we have now.
Wow.
16 million served in World War II. It's just that's staggering number considering what the population was. Essentially, every able-bodied male between a certain age range,
They were there. Yeah.
they served in some capacity.
Right.
You know, they were in one of the branches of the service. Not all of them necessarily went overseas, but so many people served then, and that is just slowly over the course of time. Less people serve, but the people who serve longer.
Okay. Let's take a breather. We've got a phone call. Good morning, caller.
Sure.
Good morning, Greg. Good morning, Doc. This is Linda Spalding.
Hi, Linda.
Hi, Linda.
Yeah, it's great to see you on the show, Greg. And those statistics that you gave about 16 million serving in World War II, that's astounding.
Isn't it something?
Yeah, I never realized
With
it.
half the population that we have today.
Yeah.
Well, I had 4 uncles that were in direct combat in World War II.
Wow.
And they all came back. Imagine that. And imagine what my poor grandparents
We were just saying that with his family, with his all his siblings being in the service. I go, holy my! We had one out of our 4, and it was driving my wife nuts.
Yeah, and 3 of them were right in Europe, Austria and France, and the other one was in the Philippines.
Wow.
But it was really something. You touched on the disabled veterans working, and I have a good number of disabled people and disabled veterans that work in our program.
Wonderful.
So if people are receiving disability, it doesn't mean that they can't work, and it's really very good for them. It really is.
Well, we were just saying, the idle hands is the devil's work, or whatever they call that.
Right.
So yeah, that would be great for someone that's listening right now that's retired but has a disability or whatever, and would like to have some type of employment. So, Linda, again, what kind of work do you have for them?
Well, it's all what they're interested in doing. Some of them are transport aides and get their license to be carts drivers. And one of them worked at our office in Dunkirk.
Great.
He was an office worker. Some of them help out with the Meals on Wheels program, the driver delivery positions. So there's lots of positions. It's whatever they're interested in, able to do. So, and another interesting thing too is if they receive disability, we do not figure in that income in the determination for income eligibility. So that's not even considered.
Okay.
So
Super.
the veterans are our priority population.
Number
We are
one.
to serve a veteran before anyone else
That's
when they come to
awesome.
us, and I'm very glad for that. And thank you, Greg, to you and all of the veterans for what you have done for all of us in this community and country.
Okay, Linda, and with that, let's pop up the phone number and information so that they can get a hold of you if they're interested. How's that?
The number in Mayville at the Chautauqua County Office for the Aging is 753-4471.
Okay. And always, you can always go to Facebook. They're out there for lots of information and contact. And I see from time to time people ask questions on the Facebook page about your services, and that's great. Okay, well, Lynn, you have a lovely weekend. Is the sun shining?
Oh, it's beautiful out there this morning.
We're in the tomb here. We don't have any windows, so we'll hopefully get out there soon.
It is lovely.
All right. You take care, and thanks for calling as always.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye. We have about 4 minutes left, Greg. So what else is going on in your office that we should know about?
Well, this is not so much in the office, but it's here in Chautauqua County.
Right here.
I've said it every time on the show, Chautauqua County is a great place to be a veteran.
Yes, you have.
It is a great place to be a veteran. So one of the things that has happened over the last couple of years is Assemblyman Goodell, former Senator, Senator Catherine Young, the New York State Department of Transportation, and many, many others who I'm failing to mention, have made it a goal and a priority to push to name various roads and highways in
yes,
Chautauqua
you're talking
County.
about this.
Yes.
All right.
After veterans who were killed in action during the post 9/11 wars. Now, I just had the opportunity to honor two different, not me personally, but I was part of the ceremony that honored two different young Chautauqua County residents that unfortunately aren't here with us because of their service. One was Lance Corporal Aaron Swanson. He was killed in Afghanistan on February 7th, 2011. And there's now a section of 394 that bears his name.
Near where? What town?
I'll have to get you that information.
Okay.
It's on 394.
So we should look. Is there signage?
There is.
Okay.
Yep, the sign is up, and that's amazing because we have a good Marine who's overseeing the safe travel of our motorists here in Chautauqua County, and and his name will be remembered for years to come. And then also Private First Class Charles Cooper, who's a graduate of Jameson High School. He was killed in Iraq in April of 2005, and he's got kind of near where 60 meets 62, but he's got a section of Route 60.
Wow.
Like going toward Frewsburg, that's named after him. But they're not the only ones. They've done a great job of doing this, and that's something you just don't necessarily see other places that are elected officials.
Whose idea was this?
So I don't want to say whose idea it was because I will be giving credit to the wrong person, but I will say that Assemblyman Goodell, former Senator Kathy, they're the ones who
instigated
pushed the legislation.
Is this across all New York State or just Chautauqua?
Well, this is something that they're doing in Chautauqua County, and they pushed in the Assembly and in the State Senate. And one of the things they do ceremonially is when Governor Cuomo signs, they give the ceremonial the pen and the thing that they sign. So it's part of the ceremony, and it's the only sad thing is that I would much rather have them with us to thank them for their service than to honor them, but at least we get to honor them.
Yeah.
So that is something that's really, Chautauqua County just does such a good job with the vets.
Greg, we're getting down to the last minute already. I can't believe it. We even had short announcements today.
Yes.
It's always been a pleasure having you here, but how about I give you the last little bit here to wrap up, sending out your message to the veterans that are listening or families.
Okay. First and foremost, thank you for your service. Second, do not disqualify yourself from receiving benefits.
And that includes spouses of the veterans, right?
If for certain spouses that do qualify, yes. Come see us, get screened. I can't say we can always match you with something, but almost always they leave our office a little better off than they started.
And that could be financial, counseling,
healthcare, service-connected disability, pension. It could be, and that's for older veterans, surviving spouses. Property tax exemption.
There you go.
That's an easy one.
Yeah.
So if you own a home and you are a veteran, you are eligible for a little break on your county taxes minimally. It's endless. So
Greg Carlson, Director of Veteran Services here in Chautauqua County, has been my guest today, folks. We're streaming live, and we're going to wrap things up right now, but I hope those of you that did watch this streaming enjoyed it. We're going to continue to improve on our technology here. This was day one, first show. So, Greg, congratulations. You're part of our history here. We're going to do this all again next Saturday morning right here on Access Chautauqua, channel 1301 on Spectrum, and you can check us out on YouTube and Facebook as we go along. Have a glorious weekend. Get ready for the snow. I hear it's coming, but just for a little while. Take care. I'm Doc Hamels, and we'll see you next time. Bye now.